Coming up on this Monday edition of Newsline at noon. Warning that it's running out of patience, Seoul urges Pyongyang to agree to its final proposal for talks to reopen the joint Kaesong industrial complex. It also wants North Korea to compensate for damages inflicted to South Korean businesses by the 4-month-long shutdown. Samsung Electronics is reportedly considering fresh legal action against Apple after the Obama administration overturned an import ban on old Apple products for infringing Samsung's patents. Plus, the United States extends embassy closures in the Middle East and Africa, with congressmen citing the most serious al-Qaeda threats since the September 11th attacks in 2001. These stories and more on Newsline at noon.
Where's the best place for bibimbap?
Les Jeux Olympiques d'hiver se dérouleront-ils à Pyeongchang?
هل أنتم حقاً سابع أكبر مصدر في العالم؟
この歌手は誰ですか？你好，最近哪部电视剧的人气最旺？
Korea is attracting interest from around the world. The more you know, the more you want to know. Dynamic Korea.
Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at noon. I'm Choi Yu-sun in Seoul.
Very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. We start this lunchtime with Seoul's latest ultimatum to Pyongyang, a week after South Korea made its final proposal for talks on reopening the Kaesong industrial complex. The North has yet to respond.
With no clear answer, Seoul says it is beginning to lose its patience. Our Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Getting neither a yes nor a no from the North on its week-old proposal to continue talks on reopening their joint business park, South Korea reiterated its call for a response on Monday, saying its patience is running thin.
We called through our inner Korean hotline at 9 a.m. this morning, and there was no answer. So we are urging the North to show its will through actions rather than silence.
South Korea made its final proposal last Monday for a 7th round of talks on resuming operations at the Kaesong industrial complex, but the North has yet to respond. The two Koreas have held 6 rounds of working-level discussions last month on reopening the jointly run factory zone in the north, but have so far failed to reach an agreement. South Korea wants the North to guarantee it will never again unilaterally shut down the complex as it did 4 months ago, while the North is pushing for an immediate resumption of operations with no preconditions. Seoul has warned it will undertake a grave measure if Pyongyang does not agree to such safeguards, and many believe it could be considering a complete closure of the complex. With some 53,000 North Korean workers working for 123 South Korean firms, the complex is seen as the last remaining symbol of economic cooperation between the two Koreas. More than 100 South Korean businesses with factories in Kaesong have filed for a total of $250 million in insurance claims, an amount that Seoul plans to pay off beginning this week. Once the payments are made, the ownership of the factories and related assets will be handed over to the government. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Korea's presidential office of Cheongwadae has reshuffled some of its senior presidential secretaries. President Park Geun-hye, who has been knocked by a series of scandals involving her handpicked senior officials since taking office, has replaced her chief of staff, Ho Tae-yeol, with 3-term lawmaker Kim Ki-chun. Kim has served as Prosecutor General and Justice Minister in the past. President Park also named former ambassador to the European Union Park Jun-woo as her new senior political affairs secretary. Park is currently the chief of the Foreign Ministry's Office of Planning and Coordination. Along with the two key posts, Senior Presidential Secretary for Civil Affairs, Secretary for Future Strategy, and Secretary for Employment and Welfare Affairs were also announced.
Korea's foreign exchange holdings reached a record high last month. The Bank of Korea says that the country's foreign exchange holdings reached some $330 billion in July, up $3.3 billion from the previous month. Bank officials say the strength of the euro helped increase the reserves as euro-dominated assets increased when they were converted to the greenback. Korea has the 7th largest foreign exchange holdings in the world. Samsung has expressed its disappointment over the Obama administration's decision to overturn an international trade ban on older models of Apple's products. While there's no plan of action just yet, the Korean tech giant says it's looking into all legal options available. Yulian reports.
President Obama's decision is being hailed as a victory for consumers and fair competition. But for Samsung, it's a major setback. The Obama administration on Saturday overturned an import ban on some older Apple gadgets, including the iPhone 4 and iPad 2, after the U.S.-based International Trade Commission ruled in June that they violated a Samsung patent. In a statement, Samsung expressed disappointment over the decision, saying, quote, the International Trade Commission had correctly recognized that Samsung has been negotiating in good faith, and that Apple remains unwilling to take a license. Samsung also added it will look into all possible legal actions in return. But as for the decision by the White House itself, no action can be taken against it as it is final. Another critical ruling is just days ahead. Apple had filed a parallel complaint against Samsung, accusing it of infringing on 4 of its patents. The ITC had made a preliminary ruling in favor of Apple back in October last year, and on Friday it will announce whether it plans to uphold the preliminary ruling. If it does, this will deal another blow to Samsung. But to keep the balance between the two tech rivals, experts say President Obama would most likely veto that decision too.
Consumers can be harmed by import bans, so in a situation where one is not dominating the other, they might have wanted to send a message to them, telling them to come to terms with each other.
The models subject to the upcoming reviews are Samsung's older gadgets, including the Galaxy S, Galaxy S2, and the Nexus. Yulian, Arirang News.
For your fill of Korean and international news. Join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. Newsline at noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
U.S. politicians have warned the terror threat against the U.S. and its Western allies has risen to levels not seen since just before the 9/11 attacks on New York and Washington. With the security concerns, more than 20 U.S. embassies and consulates around the world were closed on Sunday. Our Park Ji-won has more.
In an interview with NBC News on Sunday, Vice Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee said the current terror threat, measured by the amount of chatter, reminded him of what he saw in the run-up to 9/11.
An awful lot of chatter out there. Chatter means conversation among terrorists about the planning that's going on, very reminiscent of what we saw pre-9/11. We're paying very, very close attention to the chatter that's going on, and I can tell you, David, this is the most serious threat that I've seen in the last several years.
Chairman of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence, Peter King, also warned the security threat from Al-Qaeda is very specific. He added there's very little doubt some serious attack planning is going on.
And this is a wake-up call. Al-Qaeda is in many ways stronger than it was before 9/11 because it's mutated and it's spread and it can come at us from different directions.
A member of the House Intelligence Committee also said a major attack is being mentioned among high-level Al-Qaeda members in the Arabian Peninsula. The terror threat prompted Washington to take the unprecedented step of shutting more than 20 U.S. embassies and consulates around the world on Sunday. While some of the diplomatic outposts shut down on Sunday will reopen on Monday, the U.S. State Department says 16 embassies and 3 consulates in Middle East and in Africa will remain closed through August 10th. The State Department also issued a global travel alert for American citizens that will stay in force until August 31st. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has urged the West to lift its sanctions against Iran and treat his country with respect. Congratulating Rouhani on his inauguration, the U.S. said it would be open for talks if Iran takes serious steps to scrap its nuclear program. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Iran's new president Hassan Rouhani has emphasized dialogue over sanctions when it comes to resolving the country's nuclear issue. In his inauguration speech to parliament on Sunday, Rouhani called on Western powers to drop their sanctions on Iran and engage with his country in a respectful way.
So I will say this if you want the right response. Don't speak with Iran in the language of sanctions, speak in the language of respect.
In response, the U.S. said it was willing to work with Iran on its nuclear concerns if it is willing to engage seriously on the issue. White House spokesman Jay Carney said the inauguration of Rouhani, seen as more moderate than his predecessor Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, presents an opportunity for Tehran to engage with its international obligations and concerns surrounding its nuclear program. Rouhani started his four-year term as Iran's seventh president on Sunday, with high hopes of more interaction with the international community to resolve its nuclear program and ease sanctions that have impacted the country's oil exports. Iranian state media reported 11 foreign presidents attended Rouhani's swearing-in, including North Korea's ceremonial president Kim Jong-nam. North Korea and Iran have close ties, with both countries affected by sanctions imposed by the U.S. and its allies. One of the Western officials in attendance at the ceremony was Javier Solana, a former EU foreign policy chief. Solana and Rouhani had maintained a close relationship as they used to work together when Rouhani was Iran's chief negotiator on nuclear issues. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Israel has decided to expand financial support to illegal settlements in Jordan's West Bank, dealing a blow to the ongoing Israel-Palestine peace talks that resumed last week for the first time in 3 years. The Israeli cabinet expanded the list of West Bank Jewish settlements eligible for government subsidies on Sunday, approving housing subsidies and loans for some 600 Israeli communities in national priority areas. Palestine was quick to condemn the move, with a member of the Palestinian negotiating team saying it will have a destructive impact on the talks. The Israeli government tried to calm the new controversy and explained any settlement subsidies require additional cabinet approval. The ruling and main opposition parties here in Korea are still strangling over the parliamentary probe into the spy agency's alleged involvement in last year's presidential election. The investigation suffered another setback on this Monday when a hearing by spy agency officials was canceled following an ongoing argument about whether or not it should be made public. Our Kim Young-gil has the details.
The investigation into the spy agency scandal seems to be going nowhere and is slated to finish in less than 2 weeks. The spy agency chief and other agency officials were scheduled to appear for questioning before the parliamentary committee overseeing the probe on Monday, but the main opposition Democratic Party refused to attend. The party is boycotting the hearing because it believes that it should be made public via broadcast on the nation's 3 major networks. The Saenuri Party disagrees. Another point of contention between the two parties is the witness list. The two parties are at odds over how to ensure that key figures in the investigation, especially former spy agency chief Won Se-hoon and former Seoul police chief Kim Yong-pan, will appear for questioning. The Democratic Party wants a guarantee that they'll testify, but the Saenuri Party does not. Rival party leaders met again to discuss the issue on Sunday, but no major breakthroughs were made.
We will try to confirm the rest of the witnesses on the list during the hearing on Monday, and the lawmakers on the committee will continue to negotiate on the issue. The people want the nation's spy agency to be reformed. We ask for full cooperation with the special parliamentary investigation into the scandal.
Meanwhile, both parties have made proposals for talks with President Park Geun-hye to bring a halt to the political deadlock. Hwang Woo-yeol, the chairman of the ruling Saenuri Party, made his proposal on Monday. The main opposition Democratic Party made its proposal Saturday. The president hasn't yet responded to either proposal. The parliamentary committee must confirm the witness list by Monday in order to finish the investigation by their self-imposed deadline of August 15th. 김영길, Arirang News.
Another senior Japanese politician has announced that she plans to visit the controversial Yasukuni War Shrine on August 15th, the anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II and Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. Japan's Asahi Shimbun reports that chairwoman of the Liberal Democratic Party's Policy Research Council, Seunhei Takarichi, will visit the shrine on that day. She will join Japan's Administrative Reform Minister, Tomomi Inada, who has already announced her intent to go. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has said he will not visit this year to avoid damaging relations with Korea and China. The Yasukuni Shrine honours Japan's war dead, including 14 Class A war criminals from World War II, and is the regular cause of great diplomatic friction between Tokyo and its neighbours, which were victims of Japan's wartime atrocities. China is getting ready to abandon its one-child policy as it hopes to avert an ageing crisis that is threatening to turn into a demographic disaster. The country's official Xinhua news agency says China's Family Planning Commission is looking into proposals to lift the ban on a second child if either parent is an only child. The new regulations could come into effect by early next year and could be extended to cover all families by 2015. Analysts say the changes could induce a baby boom in China, but others disagree, pointing to very low birth rates in neighbouring countries such as Korea, Japan and Taiwan. In China, there are currently 5 people of working age for every retired person, but this ratio is projected to fall to 2 in just over 20 years' time if the one-child policy remains in place. Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has called parliamentary elections for September 7th. Rudd's decision comes 6 weeks after he defeated Julia Gillard in a Labour Party vote to become Prime Minister. In an email to his supporters Sunday, Rudd said the election would be fought mostly over the election, but noted asylum seekers and climate change would also be key issues. Rudd goes up against Conservative opposition leader Tony Abbott, who is currently favourite to win the election. Rudd will hope to win back voters who have become disillusioned with the slowing economy and ballooning budget under the Labour Party. Researchers have developed a new drug candidate that has shown promising signs of curing tuberculosis. The team, made up of mostly Koreans, says it could potentially help prevent thousands of deaths each year. Kim Min-ji reports.
Although once thought to have been eradicated, tuberculosis still kills hundreds of thousands of people around the world each year and is second only to HIV as the greatest killer worldwide due to a single infectious agent. More than 2,000 people die from TB in Korea each year, and the country has the highest rate of contraction in the OECD. There are 2 existing treatments for TB, but they have increasingly become inadequate as they were developed over 40 years ago, and multi-drug resistant TB is now present almost everywhere. The new drug candidate, however, will likely curb further outbreaks of the infectious disease, thanks to its ability to inhibit the bacteria that causes TB. Animal tests have shown 99.9% efficacy and also excellent effectiveness to drug-resistant TB. The researchers screened hundreds of thousands of chemical compounds for their ability to inhibit tuberculosis growth and destroy the tuberculobacillus without harmful side effects. During the process, they identified molecules that kill the infectious agent without harming the cells.
It is meaningful that we have developed a new drug candidate and proved that the substance has new mechanisms.
The researchers say the development of the new drug candidate will treat latent tuberculosis, as well as shorten the treatment period for patients.
We will likely conduct clinical tests early next year. After the test, the medication will be available for patients to use.
In the meantime, the researchers plan to continue to screen new molecules to find more candidate tuberculosis drugs. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Some of Broadway's biggest musicals have kicked off at theaters here in Seoul, with even more slated to debut later this summer. From Disney's High School Musical to Monty Python classics, our Polly gives us a sneak peek behind the curtain.
King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have traveled back in time to give an unforgettable performance of comedy and witty satire. The Korean adaptation of the 1975 film Monty Python and the Holy Grail is currently being performed at the Tucson Arts Center in Seoul. The Tony Award-winning parody musical has been specifically tailored for local audiences, as it pokes fun at the nation's K-pop industry and other popular musicals.
I call on everyone to consider the musical Spam-A-Lot. It's an artistic piece that breaks the common stereotypes of musicals. I can confidently say that the performances will bring immediate laughter and smiles to all audiences.
The Korean production of High School Musical is in full swing at Samsung's Blue Square Hall and will run through September 1st. The popular musical has resonated with fans worldwide, as the story deals with youth, love, and friendship. The passionate, upbeat drama also features some of Korea's hottest idol stars, including Super Junior's Lo-wook and AOA's Cho-ah.
It's not just for teenagers. People of all ages in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s will be able to enjoy this refreshing musical during the summer. I promise to do my best and work hard to elevate the performance to the highest standard.
Speaking of other adaptations of beloved musicals, the Yohengja Theater Company will be showcasing its Korean rendition of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream starting on August 15th at the Seoul Namsan Traditional Theater. The stylistic adaptation draws its inspiration from traditional Korean folklore. And lastly, the Seoul Arts Center will be hosting the Asian premiere of the stage opera Tornado on August 9th. The Italian opera was first written in 1926 and set in ancient China, giving local audiences a truly multicultural spectacle. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Well, it looks like the children are having a lot of fun cooling off nearby the fountains.
Yeah, very hot
Seoul.
in Korea.
Maybe that's what we need just about now.
Yeah.
Let's get an update on the forecast with our weathercaster Lee Ji-hyun at the Weather Center. Good afternoon to you, Ji-hyun.
Well, hello there, guys. Now, the 49-day monsoon season finally ended here in South Korea, but get ready, it will be replaced by hotter and more humid weather.
Well, I'm glad the rain is gone, of course, but I'm not really happy about this really hot and humid weather. It's incredibly sticky.
Right.
Of course, we knew it was all coming.
Right.
Every year it comes. But it's got so much hotter at night.
It's so difficult to fall asleep. Well, I remember Ji-hyun telling us earlier that taking a warm bath and stretching a bit before going to bed could actually help you fall asleep a bit better.
Well, that's right, Yusun. And the ongoing heat wave will continue nationwide until September, with overnight lows in the mid to upper 20s. And also, there will be a chance of passing showers. So if you're taking a vacation in the valley by a stream or on the riverside, watch out for flooding. Now, today, it will be as hot and sticky as yesterday, and daytime highs will soar up into the 30s in almost all regions around the country, with a chance of sudden showers in Seoul and the surrounding areas due to slight instability. In fact, we had one here in Seoul. Now, tomorrow's forecast calling for partly to mostly sunny skies, and there are isolated rain showers on tap for Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi provinces. So tomorrow should be the final round of showers showers for the week because we are not seeing any rain in the forecast for the rest of the week, but there will be a definite rise in temperatures. So this week will be hot with a fair amount of clouds. Now back to today's forecast. Most of the morning fog has burned up after sunshine, but more clouds have been rolling in, so we are looking at mostly to partly cloudy skies, and the heat wave warning are expanding to more regions down south and even here in the central regions. With that, let's take a closer look at today's readings. Now the capital and Gwangju will climb up to 31 degrees Celsius, that's 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and Busan will get up to 32. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will get up to 32 just like Busan, and Daejeon and Mount Kumgang will get up to 31. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. Well, that's all for me today. Enjoy your lunch break and have a great rest of the day. Now, back to you, Mark and Yusan in the studio.
Well, thank you ever so much as always, Jian. You enjoy your lunchtime too, and those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Join us again tomorrow here in Seoul at noon, Korea time.